Greetings. I'm Carol Leigh, Brack Kaiser, owner of Carol Leigh Specialties and Hillcreek Fiber Studio in Columbia, Missouri, where we manufacture our adjustable triangle frame loom. I've been weaving on the triangle loom since 1983, and I've come to find and realize that weaving on the triangle loom is truly a magical way of weaving. I've invited Nancy to help me show you some of the wonderful things you can weave on this triangle loom very easily. The triangle shawls are woven most frequently on the triangle loom, such as this nice warm wool wrap, a 7-foot size. This one is real cozy with the brushed mohair and cotton chenille in blues and greens and lavenders. Also 7-foot size. Or add a bit of rayon to dress up that evening wrap. This too has some cotton chenille and brushed mohair. That looks nice. Or how about this dramatic fashion statement, which you can drape over a shoulder, belt in, put over a suit or a business dress. Here's a feminine collar that you can attach with a fancy pin and dress up any outfit. You don't have to weave just triangles on the loom. If you put two triangles together, you'll make a square, such as this plaid afghan and other blankets of various sizes. Or if you leave a neck opening when you put them together, you've got a square poncho, which you can wear either as a boat neck style or in a V-neck style by turning it. When you put two triangles together, if you put them together only partway up the back, you can create a wonderful ample ruana. Let your imagination run. You could stitch under your arms here to create a sleeve. You could fold up a cuff and put a fancy button there. You could tuck the shoulders and make a nice shoulder pad effect, or put a belt on and create a jacket. Here's another example on the floor of a bathroom mat that was designed to go into a corner created by a corner bathtub. Just what is it about the triangle frame loom that makes it so magical and easy to use? The triangle loom uses the concept of weaving loops inside previous loops with just one continuous yarn for both warp and weft directions of weaving. If you've done or thought of doing any weaving on a regular harness loom, you can appreciate the fact that with the triangle loom there are no individual yarns to measure and thread through heddles on shafts or slots in a reed. There are no shuttles to wind. Therefore, you can start weaving right away. You can use fancy, fuzzy, or slubby yarns in both weaving directions without worry of them getting damaged by heddles or reed. There are very few, if any, calculations needed in planning your weaving, so you can be spontaneously creative. Change colors or yarns whenever you wish, as I did with this ruana and poncho. If you wish, you can plan complex color sequences or structures before weaving. This loom is particularly well suited for Scottish tartan sets, such as this Campbell of Argyll plaid. All color changes are automatically symmetrical. You can use leftover yarns, as each color is distributed equally in both directions of the fabric. In this piece, there is a variety of hand-spun yarns, some fine, some nubby, all dyed with backyard plants, small skeins of many yarns. But look how balanced the colors are. There is no yarn waste, as on some looms. You can use fancy, expensive yarns with no gilt, such as this eyelash yarn used by Sandy Barbag of Florida in designing this jacket. Use the woven cloth as a canvas. Add stitchery or other embellishments to the surface. When weaving on a triangle loom, you need very few tools and supplies These are a few that you'll need. Scissors, a locker hook, or a large crochet hook, and a large tapestry needle with an eye on it. Measuring tape or a yardstick. If you're going to do some planning, get some graph paper and pencil with eraser. The shed sticks for when we're using fuzzy yarns or to pick up a row. Nitty knotties in either a 6-inch size or a 9-inch size or a book or anything else that's handy to measure fringes. And a hair pick or comb with wide teeth to space the yarns. I prefer using my fingernails just because it's one less tool to misplace. If you want to nap the yarns, after you've woven your fabric, a good stiff brush will help bring up the nap. And of course your yarns. For your first piece, our 6-foot shawl, we will use 450 yards of a medium to heavy weight yarn, preferably from a center pull ball. If your yarn does not come in a center pull ball, such as a skein like this, it's well worth your time to use a swift or skein holder and a ball winder to wind your own balls so that this will pull from the center. For this project, a 6-foot shawl, we will need about 450 yards of yarn. Make that about 160 yards of a darker color and about 290 yards of a lighter color. Have a basket to keep your yarns in under the loom. Once you've mastered the weaving process, you can go on and use and experiment with fine yarns or fuzzy yarns and fancy yarns. Although you can make many items on a single-size triangle loom, we at Hillcreek Fiber Studio have manufactured a patented adjustable triangle loom which adjusts to 6 different sizes. For our project today, we're going to use the next to the largest size. You'll find that all 3 of the boards have a bolt and wing nut. We'll move the boards in. My son Carl Spriggs and I developed the adjustable loom back in 1989 after we'd been manufacturing a 6-foot loom for 6 years. Customers kept saying, "Can't you make it larger? Can't you make it a little smaller?" So I posed the question to my son. He enjoys figuring out the solution to things like that. So now our adjustable loom adjusts from 7 feet across the top down to just 3.5 feet. That gives you many options for a variety of projects. Set the loom at a comfortable height for weaving. If you have the Spriggs Tri-Loom tripod, you'll notice that you've got 5 different heights that you could set the loom at. You'll use the different heights throughout the weaving. When you're finished weaving and want to get the loom out of the way, you can set it way up at the top board. We'll start here at this height. If you don't have the Spriggs Tri-Loom stand, you'll need to rig up some way of making the height adjustable. A freestanding loom stand makes your project portable to move from room to room, outdoors on a nice day, or to take for demonstrations or on vacation. We offer the triangle looms in 4 different flavors, in walnut, cherry, oak, or maple. Please do not attempt to pick up the loom and stand together, as they're bulky. The loom could slip and hurt you. Just move one item at one time when you're moving. We have shown you many options of what you can do on the triangle loom. For now, I'm going to show you just one sampler with several different weave structures on there. We'll start out with the plain weave structure and then show you how to make color changes. We'll also show you the twill weaving and some Leno lace. We'll show you also a couple different ways of putting an edge on the top and at least 3 different ways that you can stitch 2 triangles together. Weaving on the triangle loom is just plain fun. Let's get started. To begin weaving, choose your first color. Take the end of your tail from the middle of the ball, and then keep the ball in your basket. Don't ever lift the ball out of the basket while you're weaving. We'll start by making a slip knot. Make a loop, and then a loop through that circle, leaving a tail long enough to be a fringe, and attach that loop to your corner nail. To determine that corner nail, you'll count 14 nails for each unused setting on the loom. We'll start on the 15th nail. You'll bring your first yarn across the loom underneath the nails all the way to the right corner nail. This nail we will encircle in a counterclockwise direction. Then go down to the next nail on the right side. We'll number these nails 1, 2, 3, starting with the corner nail. So we're going to just catch that right nail number 2 and then come back across the loom. If you're left-handed, you would start your weaving on that corner nail on the right side and reverse everything that I say from right to left, counterclockwise and clockwise. The only time that will make a difference is when we're finishing the weaving and you're stitching across the top. It'll be more comfortable for you at that time. Otherwise, throughout the entire weaving, your right and left hands can be interchanged easily. All right, we're bringing this yarn across the loom, catching it on left nail number 2, going up to the top of the loom, go from the left side of that nail towards the center of the loom. Now we're ready to start weaving. We've got 2 warp threads laying. We'll reach under the first warp thread. We're going to number these warp threads from the top on down as we've laid them in. We'll lift the first warp thread, bring a loop down from the top, catch that nail on the left side, that's nail number 3, and then we'll bring the yarns across the loom. As we do that, notice I'm using 2 hands, and I'm keeping the left hand at a right angle, holding that yarn at a right angle all the way across. When I get to the right-hand side of the loom, this right angle will fit right over the next nail, which will be the right nail number 3. And the yarn will catch the next nail on the top and go from the right side of the nail towards the center of the loom. Notice on that row we put in the next warp thread and 2 weft threads at once, one on either side of the loom. For the next row, we're going to lift warp thread number 2 and bring another loop down, catch the right side of the loop on right nail number 4, hold your yarn again with 2 hands. The lower left side of the loop is held at a right angle again, and we'll bring your yarn back across the loom. The lower left corner of that loop is put on the next nail, and you bring your yarn over the top nail towards the center of the loom again. That's basically all there is to it. All the way through the weaving, we'll be weaving loops inside of loops. The next time, however, we'll be picking up 2 warp threads, the top one and every other one on down. So 1 and 3 are lifted, bring a loop down below, catch the next nail, stretch the yarn across. On the right side now we'll lift the even numbered threads, warp 2 and warp 4. Pull a loop down from the top, attach the right side of the loop, stretch the loop back to the left. Always memorize a mantra that kind of says, always weave a loop down, catch the loop on the nail, and then stretch the loop across the loom. Remember, when you're on the left side of the loom, you'll pick up the odd numbered threads. If you number down 1, 3, 5, and 7. Another way to think of this is to look at the row that you've woven the time before and pick up the threads that were down the last time. They'll come up this time. When you're on the right side of the loom, you'll pick up the even numbered threads, or again, the ones that were not up the last time. You'll find as your weaving progresses that your yarns tend to want to stick in the shed that they were in before, the opening. If you notice, sometimes I'll lead with my finger as I bring the yarn across. That clears that space, that fuzziness, making it easier to bring your yarn across. Sometimes I'll clear the whole shed with my hand. This allows you to bring the yarn faster. Weavers often wonder how much tension to put on your yarns. You don't need very much tension. The tighter the tension is, the smaller your piece will be when you take it off the loom. The important thing to remember is to keep the tension even all the way through. Notice how the weaving is progressing from the outside corners to the center and from the top towards the bottom all at the same time. Every row we're weaving, we're laying in one more warp thread and 2 weft threads at the same time. Some people like to use a tool when they're weaving instead of their fingers. The locker hook tool, which I showed before with the crochet hook, you can lift the threads clear your shed, catch your yarn and bring it down. We've now woven plain weave in 9 nails. You count the nails across the top. When I do my designing, we count and plan by the nail. I'll show you how to plan the color changes and things later, but for now, we're going to make a color change right here. Before you weave down, we'll cut the tail long enough to be a fringe, and we'll pick up your next color, pull from the center ball, and then put that ball back in that basket. We're going to hold on to the 2 tails together. Remember our mantra from before, thou shalt always weave a loop down from the top. Well, if we wove the tail by itself, that would not be a loop. So we don't want to do that. If you hold the 2 tails together, if you want to, especially at the beginning, when you're first learning, you may want to tie just a simple overhand knot at the end, just so that you still have a continuous strand. Then we'll pick up the row, bring both colors down together, straighten up the first row, then we'll make a large overhand knot, make a big circle, pull the 2 tails through the circle, and try to tighten that knot as close to the weaving as you can. Then, holding the tails, pull the knot down just below that nail, so the knot will sit right there where you want him. This knot we can undo then. If you don't use that technique in putting that knot right where you want him, the knot will slide into the weaving. Now our new color is coming across the loom first. All of our color changes are symmetrical Go over and back, and you can see how the color balances itself out on both sides of the loom and across the loom as well. Okay, now it's time to make another color change. So again, we'll cut this tail long enough to be a fringe. Pick up our second color. Hold the two tails together. I'm just going to set this up here so it's handy. I'll weave down the two colors together. If you always make your color changes on the same side of the loom, then everything will stay symmetrical. Straighten up the row. We'll make our overhand knot. Cinch it up fairly close to the weaving, and then pull it down to sit right below the nail. Bring the new color across the loom. Let's keep making color changes for a while so we get the practice. As your weaving progresses, this area gets so wide that if you try to keep your just one hand at a time in there, you're going to start stretching your yarns. So if you want to just break this down into two areas to weave, just do one hand breadths at a time. Bring the yarn down that far, and then do the next part. Straighten the first color. Do your overhand knot close to the weaving. And stretch the new color across the loom. Okay. We now have 6 turquoise color changes. Before you go on to other structures, it's a good idea once in a while to check your work. Ah, look here, we have one mistake here. Now, if you've been doing your mantra, as we mentioned earlier, everything is symmetrical because we're weaving loops. That means all your mistakes are symmetrical as well. So besides the one here, there should be one right over here as well. Now, it's easy to fix mistakes. You don't need to undo everything. What we're going to do is back up to just that horizontal row that will fix both mistakes. We're only going to unweave the bottom of the loop up to that area. You don't need to take the whole thing out. Okay. Now we can reweave all the way down. Fixing both sides. So okay. If you discover you've made a mistake a little further back, a couple rows back, again, you'll have one on the other side of the loom as well. Don't panic. We'll use the same principle we just did before. This time we will unweave 3 loops back to the horizontal row that will fix both of them. So this is the horizontal row. See where that float goes over 3 this direction. The warp thread also goes over 3 in the back direction, back side of it. So we'll fix it all. Unweave just up to that row. We have to unweave 2 more rows to get to that row. So we'll undo the bottom nail there and there. And we'll unweave just to that horizontal row. Sometimes if you strum the yarns a little bit, it'll free up the fuzziness there. Okay, that was the row that had the error in it. So we'll just reweave the bottom of the loop correctly. Then the next loop. And then the last. Now, if you discover that you've made a mistake much further back in your weaving and much too high to be practical to unweave the bottom of loops to fix it, don't panic. There, again, is an easy way to fix this. And of course, we have our two. We have one on this side and one on that side of the loom as well. What we're going to have to do this time is actually physically remove that thread that's making both mistakes. We don't want to cut it too close to the end. We're going to cut that thread back far enough so that when we unweave this tail, it'll drop down and be long enough to be a fringe. So we're going to measure back about 9 or 10 inches. Be sure we have the right thread. We don't want to cut the wrong one. Here, if we count down, that's 1, 2, 3 down from the top. So we'll cut that one here. Unweave. Unweave from the other side. Drop these tails down. We'll later cut this off and trim it for a fringe. Now we'll take the locker hook tool or a large tapestry needle and thread a replacement thread of the same color, and we will needle weave this replacement across the loom. The earlier you make this replacement, the less distance you have to needle weave. Of course, we're weaving on this side as well. Be careful to go over the threads that have the long float and under the thread that was behind. So you're going over, under in the appropriate space. Now you'll tie your tails together just like we did on our color changes. Now these will be fringes. Now if you noticed all the fringes that are in here now with all our color changes, later on when we add fringes along the whole edge, you won't have to add a fringe at these places. We'll save this to make a fringe later. There. That wasn't so painful, was it? For your first few shawls, you may want to just explore colors using plain weave. So far, all we've used is plain weave. But you can see how where we've put the color stripes, the colors cross each other and make a check. There are many fun ways of playing with color with a plain weave structure. You might do a color blanket, exploring blocks of color and how these colors mix when crossing each other. This piece was designed and woven by my youngest daughter, Rose, when she was 7. Plaids can be complex or simple, with narrow bands or wide bands with a variety of color. If you don't want the plaid look, you can slowly blend from one color to another. In this shawl, I had 7 different values of color, which I blended from the darkest to the lightest. An interesting yarn may be the only design element needed. For example, with this jacket of Sandy Barback's. Using a variegated yarn can make its own design. And of course, a solid single color can be classic elegance. Once you've mastered the use of plain weave through your exploration of color, you may be ready for some textured weave. There are various structures that are easy to learn, such as basket weave, twill, and Leno lace. I will show you them next. Basket weave is just like plain weave, except you are weaving with 2 threads at once and are crossing over and under 2 threads at a time, alternating those pairs each row. Notice the basket weave in this prairie silk shawl, where we combined 1 strand each of 2 colors to add richness and depth of color. This technique can be used if your yarn is finer and you want to fill in the spaces. See here in Summer Sky, the indigo dyed hand-spun yarn was finer than the Tweedy white hand-spun. I doubled the finer thread when I used it. Another way to use fine threads is to use each nail twice. Look again at Backyard Garden. The yellow hand-spun is considerably finer than this rust knop yarn. To compensate, after I had woven the yellow yarn, I took the crochet hook and moved the yellow loops over so there were 2 loops on each nail. I will be showing you how to move loops soon. Another textured effect used in both Summer Sky and Backyard Garden was Leno lace. See the open work? Leno is a form of lace which occurs when you cross 1 thread back over its previous thread. Then lock that cross in place with another yarn, creating a lacy opening. To set up for our Leno lace structure in our sampler shawl here, I've woven 4 nails worth of plain weave. We're now going to move 2 loops over to make space to put the Leno lace. For every nail on the top, you'll have 2 nails worth at the bottom to move. So we'll leave 1 empty nail at the top and 2 empty nails at the bottom. You can move these over with your fingers if you want, or some people like to use a hair pick or a comb with widely spaced teeth to move rows over. Now we'll do the same on the other side of the loom. Move 1 loop over, move the next loop over. That's the space for our Leno. Skip over 2 blank nails on the bottom. You can move these over with your fingers if you want. Now we're ready to weave the Leno holding cord. First measure the length of yarn that you'd like. You can use the same color or a different color, or maybe even some ribbon would be nice to dress this up. Cut the thread long enough to be able to weave a whole loop up and leave 2 tails here. We'll take the loop and thread it through the eye end of your locker hook or through your tapestry needle. Now we're going to number these warp threads from the bottom of where we're going to do the Leno lace. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll take the even numbered threads, in other words number 2, catch it with the hook, come back under warp number 1 and make that cross, and then scoot the hook on up. We'll come up and catch the next even numbered thread, which is number 4, bring it back across number 3, scoot the hook on up underneath. Then we're going up to number 6, bring it back across number 5 and scoot the hook up. We'll continue this way all the way up to the top. Notice how when the cross is made, it's forcing the space open. We're going to bring the yarn through that will hold the cross. We'll force the space open so it will stay open and like a lace weave. Put your loop over the top nail and adjust the tension. That's the Leno for the right side. We'll do the same on the other side. Then later, after we've completely woven the piece, so we have more vertical lines to go across, we'll do a Leno lace horizontally all the way across and tie the tails to each other for fringe. Now, as we come across horizontally, you'll notice that the yarn on the left side is diagonally a little higher than on the right side. The only way to alleviate this is to put that yarn around 3 nails. This way it lines up so you've got 4 threads with your 2 nails of that color, and the space is lined up like it should be. We will now measure for another loop with 2 tails. There. Those are the vertical rows now for our Leno. We'll finish the horizontal ones later. When you're ready to begin the twill structure, you'll be on the left side of the loom, ready to weave. Cut your thread. You will weave the tail down by itself. Do you remember the mantra that we had you learn earlier about always weaving a loop down by itself? Once you've learned that mantra and learned it well, now you can break the rule. The only time that you break the rule, though, is changing from one weave structure to another. We are weaving this tail down in the old plain weave structure. The new tail will be woven in the twill structure. We will start the new structure on the right side of the loom. You may find using the shed stick to be of an aid to you. The principle of a twill weave is that we are now going over 2 threads and under 2 threads all the way through the row. So we're going to start with the first 2 threads and go over those, under 2, over 2, under 2, all the way up. When you get your shed stick to the top, turn it on its side and rest it on the nails. This will hold your space open for you to bring your tail down through. Remove the stick, catch the nail on the bottom, and let's bring this across to the other side. Tie your 2 tails together, just like you normally do your color changes. The second row of twill will also be woven on the right-hand side. We are going to again start by going over 2, under 2. We are creating this 2-thread float each row that we weave. But each row, that float will step down 1 step. We go starting again, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, all the way up. But if you take a look at the shed stick with the float in the row that you just wove before, you can see that that float is just 1 step down. With the twill weave, you have 4 different paths that you will follow. We've done 2 of those paths so far. Now when we do this 3rd path, we'll be on the left-hand side. But again, we'll go over 2, under 2, all the way up. Now on this third row, we'll have a little bit different at the top. If we were to just go over 2 there at the top, you'll notice this loop at the top would not catch our top warp thread. It's important that we catch that top thread, or it will look strange when you try to finish your shawl. So to catch the top, we may have to change back to a plain weave just for a couple threads at the top to make sure that that will work. Will come out from the back side here. There, we just did that in one change there, and that will work. Notice the twill stepping down here. Okay, we're going to bring this back to the other side. That was the third row. Now we'll do the fourth row, again starting over 2, under 2. Because of the nature of the triangle loom, with your nails going down, if you always start going over 2, under 2, the direction of your twill line will follow or parallel the edge of the bottom of your loom. Again, at the top, if we were to continue our over 2, under 2 sequence, we would wind up under the top thread, and we don't want that because the third row went under that top thread. So we're going to do a little plain weave at the top to make sure that the top warp thread is caught in our weave structure. With twill, a 2-2 twill like we've done, there are just 4 pads that are then repeated in sequence. So your 5th row and 6th row and 7th row and 8th row will be just like the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd and 4th rows. You'll notice as the weaving progresses that every 4th thread you'll have a horizontal 3-thread float. Don't be concerned with this. That's just natural when you switch from a plain weave to a twill weave. There's no way you can get around it. It'll be either on the front side or on the back side of your cloth. At this point, we need to stop and assess where this design is going. I'd like to share with you what I've planned for you to finish if you'd like to do this sampler shawl. When I plan a project, I only plan the first half of the triangle because everything else is mirror image. It's handy for me to know how many nails are going to be in my design, so I'll count the nails across the top of the loom, not counting this first corner nail because that's only a slip knot and it won't be a loop to be counted as a design. But I will count the corner nail on that side. I'll take that number and then divide in half for the number of nails that I will design. Now I'd like to share with you the design for your sampler. When you first start out with a plan, you might want to use a pencil with your eraser and a graph paper. What I do is first start just drawing out the left half of a triangle. Because remember, everything's mirror image. We don't have to plan both sides. Now we know we have 145 nails across the top of the loom. We've counted that. I'm going to subtract the 1 nail that's on the left side because that has our slip knot on it. That's not a real loop for our design. And then we'll divide the remainder in half. That's 72 nails that we need to plan. Now we've woven so far a plain weave in about 9 nails worth. We'll mark that with our light color 9 nails. This is representing 9 nails in there. We don't need to be very particular about this. We're just getting a rough idea of where we're going to put things. Next we did 11 nails worth of our dark, light, dark color change pattern. In there, let's just put 11. That included 6 nails of dark color and 5 nails of light color. So I'm going to mark out 6 dark colors. Okay, and this is our dark, light, dark pattern. Then we put in 5 nails worth of plain weave with that lace down the middle. So we'll put in about 5 nails here. We'll just call this the light color, and we're going to mark a lace right down the middle so we know that that's there. Next we wove 8 nails of twill in the dark color. Dark color. And let's mark that with the red so we can see it. Okay, that's as far as we've woven so far. I think I'd like to add some more twill in the middle. Let's do about 4 nails of that. Dark color in twill. Now, we've used so far 37 nails. Remember, we need to plan 72. We've used 37 so far. That leaves us with 35. I'd like to put some plain weave right next to our dark. Let's do about 3 nails of light color in plain weave. And I think it would look nice to balance out this lino lace on the other side of our twill area. So let's put another 5 nails worth of the light color with the lace down the middle. Okay. This now will leave us with about, we've just used another 8 nails. So that leaves us 27 nails left to plan. We can divide this area that's left into 3 equal parts if we'd like, with 9 nails of something and 9 and then 9. I think it looks a little nicer if we balance it a little bit differently and use different amounts of nails there. I'd like to add another area of our stripes, dark, light, dark. How about 2 areas, 1 here and 1 here. Let's make this next area a little bit smaller than the first. We'll use 9 nails worth of dark, light, dark. That would mean 5 nails of dark color and 4 nails of light color in between. And about 11 nails worth of our plain weave with a lace in the middle, using our light color. There's our lace weave right there. And that would leave us with 7 nails for our dark, light, dark pattern. Four nails of dark color, 3 nails of light in between. Now, if we'd like to, this total, if we add up all those numbers, should come to our 72 that we're needing to plan. If we'd like to see what this would look like as an overall plan, remember when we wove our loops down, every loop that we wove down, the horizontal part of the bottom of the loop came across the loom. Our dark like dark area came to here. Let's follow each one of these threads across horizontally. This is for the bottom of our loops. Remember, as we wove this, we wove down and then the bottom of the loop came across the loom. Our next area was the lace area, and that comes across the loom here, with the little lace coming across in between. Then our twill, and we'll bring the twill across the loom as well. Okay, let's follow this lace area horizontally across. Our next area is the dark light dark stripes. We'll follow the dark threads across. Remember, those were woven down and come across. Got 5 of those. Then our large lace area with plain weave comes across again. And here's our lace going horizontally across. Then our dark light dark area. Got 4 dark threads. And our twill is going to take care of itself right down through the middle. We don't need to go horizontally there because it's going to do its own thing down there. Now, you can follow this plan if you'd like to finish your sampler. Weave it up almost till the middle so that I can show you how to get into those tight spaces in the middle there. Or if you'd like to, you can change the plan any way you'd like. Now that we're near the center, let's review a little bit of what we've been doing so far. When I left you, we had just finished the twill section. When you change from twill to plain weave, remember you're weaving the tail of the twill down by itself because we're changing structure here. Then you'll weave the tail of the plain weave down by itself on the other side of the loom, bring that tail across the loom and tie it together with the twill tail, just like you do your color change knots. Then we went on and did an area of lace, just like we showed before, and then the dark, light, dark color changes, some more lace and so forth, just like our design. Now here's something, when this color changes across the loom, as we're weaving across that, you can choose either to weave your plain weave across there, or you can follow the line of the diagonal twill that we've already set up and continue with that diagonal across here. Then each row, as you weave down, you weave plain weave to here, do the twill, and then plain weave again. You can add the fringe at any time during the weaving. I will show you how in just a few minutes. Right now our weaving has gotten to the center or close enough where it's difficult to get our fingers in there. The locker hook tool comes in handy at this point. Measure the loop, the length you need, and thread the loop through the eye on the locker hook. Then you can needle weave the row down as you go. We're in the twill area here. Remember we mentioned before that you have 4 paths to follow in the twill. So every 4th row will be, or 5th row will be just like the 1st row. So if we want to know where to go down, we don't have room to put the shed stick up through there, we will copy 5 rows back. So it'll be just like this row here. Go over 1, under 2, over 2, and that establishes our pattern. Now it's just over 2, under 2. Notice, as a check, the float that the needle is making is down 1 step from the float in the previous row. Okay, open this up. We should have just the same number of nails left at the bottom on each side of the loom. Adjust the tension. We're ready for the very last row now. Measure this thread the length you need it, plus enough for fringe. You can cut or tear the yarn. Thread your needle. This very last row will be a single thread, not a loop, right down through the middle. We're going to copy the next row, which would be this one. Under 1, over, there. Notice how the twill, when done in the center of the loom, how it comes together and makes a chevron naturally. This will show up a lot more when you take it off the loom and wash the shawl. Now that we've finished all of our vertical rows, we can complete the horizontal Leno lace that we saved to the end. To do that, we will measure the length we need. Since the Leno vertically was doubled, we will double this horizontal row, just for consistency. Thread the loop through the ivory needle. And remember, with the Leno, we're going to take the even-numbered thread, cross it back over the odd-numbered thread before. So number 4 comes back over number 3, creating that twist. Now where the Leno crosses a previous row of Leno, what I'd like to do there is just kind of wrap around this row, just so it's caught, and then go on. We're crossing the vertical one again, so I just wrap that and continue. Now you can do the vertical Leno at any stage in the weaving. You can do it either right after you leave the holes for it, the spaces up there, or you can wait to the very end and do all of them at once. Okay, get to the end. We'll tie the tails from the vertical Leno and the tail from the horizontal Leno together, like we do our normal color change. We come back to this side and cut off the extra tail and do another knot here as well. Tail from the vertical and the tail from the horizontal. You may have noticed that when we started weaving, our loom was set a little bit lower. As the weaving progresses, it's more comfortable to raise the loom higher. When you get to the point, however, when you don't have to walk back and forth when you're doing your weaving, when you could stand in one place or perhaps even sit in one place, if it's more comfortable for you, you can raise that, lower that all the way to the floor or to the lowest level, and sit and weave with a chair. Right now I'm going to put it up at the highest setting to finish some of the fringes down here so I can show you how to do that. You would not have to add any fringes if you don't want to. The weaving is not going to come apart structurally if you just took this right off the loom the way it is. Every thread comes over and then back under, so it's all intertwined, even across the top. But if you'd like to add some fringes, I'll show you how now, and we'll show you some other edging ideas later. Use a tool, either a book or this is a 6-inch nitty-knotty, to make the fringe the length that I like. We're going to wind a couple winds around here so we get several of them at once. Don't wind too many, or the ones on top will be bigger than the ones below. Okay. Now take one, fold it in half, take your locker hook tool, the locker part of it, the hook part of it, come down at the fold of this yarn, right at the nail. You'll come down with the tool, catch the fold of your fringe, bring it up to the surface, open the loop and pull the tails through. Tighten up the knot and bring that down below the nail. You don't want to put the knot on the nail itself, or it'll be hard to take your shawl off the loom. Fold the tails, got a loop there, come down right at the fold of your thread, catch the loop and bring it up. Most weavers choose to put the same color fringe at the nail where that same color bent and went around. But you could use the fringe as a design element in itself. You could do the opposite colors there, or you could do the fringe all in one color. That's your design choice. The last row you wove down through the middle becomes its own fringe down here. You don't need to tie it in place. It can't go anywhere. And you don't need to add any extra fringes right there. On the top corner nail, we don't want to fringe on that either, because that's our first loop that we will use when we take the edging off the top of the loom. Once you've finished putting the fringes on, be sure to check your work and make sure you don't have any floats or other mistakes and errors. If you do, refer back to our section on repairing mistakes and make those corrections before you go on to finish the edging. We will show you how to do the edging next. There are two ways, basically, that I choose to finish off the tops of my shawls. One is the simple way, and one is more decorative. For the simple way, as you've noticed here, I've lowered the loom to the lowest position for comfort while I work this. For the simple way, we'll take the crochet hook end of the locker hook, reach in from behind the first loop on the right-hand side, and remove that loop from the loom. Then come and take the second one and remove it. This is very similar to the little potholder frame looms that many of you are already familiar with. We're just chaining the loops one after the other across the top of the loom. This is loop 3, comes off. Physically lift the loop over. I find that if you try to use the tool to pull that loop through without trying to physically lift that over, sometimes the loops can be too tight. And if it's too tight along this edge, the corner will start to curl. You may find that you need to remove some of the nails across the side to give you a little slack while you're working this across the top. Notice how the colors come up distinctly with this simple edge. When you come to the very end, remember that slip knot at the beginning. We'll remove this from the nail and pull out the knot. Then this tail will go through the last loop and hold everything together. For the decorative edge, choose a color that you'd like to use across the top of your shawl. Make sure you have at least 4 times the length as the top of the shawl of that color. We're going to start by making a slip knot, which is just a circle and then a loop through the circle, slip that slip knot onto your locker hook. Well, this will be loop number 1. Loop number 2 comes off the loom. We'll create loop number 3. To create that loop, you'll take this unwoven end, make the loop with your left hand, slide the needle into that loop. This working end is on the inside of the loop, on the front of the loop. Then we'll lift loop number 2 over loop number 3, then loop number 1 over loop number 3. So loop number 3 is now loop number 1. Okay, now we'll take loop number 2 off the loom, create loop number 3 by turning this loop to the center, adjusting the tension, lift loop 2 over 3 and then 1 over 3. Okay, this is the new 1. 2 comes off the loom, create number 3, keep this edging fairly loose across the top. It'll look a lot better. If it gets too tight, it'll pull in the corner. Notice as we're finishing this edging, we have a solid color across the top. Okay, we'll pull the last loop through. Now we'll cut the tail and pull both the very first tail we started with and the decorative edge tail. Pull both of those through the very last loop. That holds everything in place. The decorative edging makes a nice edge to a collar. Next, I would like to show you how to put 2 triangles together to make a blanket, a poncho, and a ruana. The blanket would be similar to this blanket we showed before, Gretchen's plaid blanket. By putting 2 triangles together, you wind up with a square. In order to create the 2 triangles, I leave the first woven piece right on the loom and then weave a second piece directly above it. So you just start like you would normally do, push the first layer back on the nails, and then start another weaving right directly above it. To take off anything from the loom, I'd like to lower it to the lowest level. Before you remove a piece from the loom, whether it be just a shawl or a double piece, always straighten up your rows. Once you wash the piece, all the crooked rows will stay right where they are. They're not going to move and get straight when you wash them. Now we're going to stitch 2 together to make a blanket. The easiest way to put 2 triangles together is right on the loom. We'll start by removing the loop from the top layer with the locker hook, and then the loop from the bottom layer off the same nail. Then we'll lift the first loop off over the second loop, and then come back to the top layer again. Lift the loop over the second, and then go to the back layer of that same nail. We're just chain stitching, similar to what we've done before. But we're taking 1 loop at a time, going from front layer to back layer, to front layer to back layer. When you get to the end, you'll have 2 tails here from your weavings. You'll remove both of those slip knots and pull them both through the last loop. That will hold everything together. Now, your seam is going to look fairly flat. On one side. On the other side, you'll hardly be able to see the seam at all. Next, I'll show you how to put two triangles together to make a poncho. On the poncho, the seam for the V-neck is right down the front. You can hardly see it. We'll start by determining where we want our neck opening. Usually 12 to 14 inches or whatever spacing you'd like for your neck opening is sufficient, but center it around the middle. First, you'll start by lifting a loop from the right edge of where you've chosen to make your neck opening. Then, to reinforce this edge, we'll take the loop from that back layer and chain those two. Now we're just going to work on the front layer of the fabric and chain all the way across. When you get to the left edge of your neck opening, then we'll go to the back layer, and then the front layer and the back layer, just like we did with the blanket. And you will continue all the way to the edge, finishing exactly like you did for the blanket. Once you've gotten to the left edge, then we'll turn and do the back side of the neck opening and go off to the right direction. When you start on the back layer, you might want to reinforce that join again with that stress point just by coming to the front and then going back to the back layer. And we'll just chain stitch the back layer one at a time. Get to the right side, reinforce it by coming to the front again. And now we're going to do the front layer, back layer, front layer, back layer like we've done before. Once you've chained all the way to the edge and removed your piece from the loom, your poncho is finished. But if you'd like to, you can add a decorative edging to help reinforce those stress points and also for decoration. This time we're going to put two pieces together to form a Rowana or jacket. We'll first stitch the seam from the back neck down to the back point, and then we'll add a decorative trim starting from the front corner all the way up and around the neck and back on down to the next corner. We will start at the back of the neck, about 2 inches or 3 inches back from center. We'll pick up the front layer loop and then the back layer loop from the same nail. And then we'll continue to chain front layer, back layer, just like we've done before for the poncho and the blanket. And finish off that whole row just like we've done before. And this creates the center back seam. To do the decorative edging along the front edge of your Rowana, we'll start out like we've done before with a slip knot. That's loop number 1. Loop 2 comes off the loom, and we create loop number 3. Pull it through the first 2 loops, so it becomes the new loop 1. Second loop comes off the loom, create loop 3 again. Pull it through. We'll continue like this all the way across just the front layer and around the back of the neck opening, and then we'll come backwards along the back layer doing the same thing. You may find that it's easier to take the piece off the loom to do the decorative edging coming on the back layer. When you get to the center, you'll need to reinforce that opening where there's a stress point. So we'll reach into a stitch that's already been done. And now we need to come around the corner and come back the other way, which is easier done in your lap. So we'll remove this from the loom. Okay. Going around the back of the neck, and we'll just continue as we have before with our decorative edge. There, it's finished. That looks nice, doesn't it? But we're not finished yet. Now we need to go and full the fabric. Threads woven over and under each other does not make a finished fabric. To do so, you need to wash your wool with some agitation. We've filled the basin with warm water. Use some shampoo, Orvis paste, or any other pH-neutral shampoo that's appropriate for your protein fibers. Do not use woolite, as that has enzymes in it now that are harmful to wool. Lift it up and turn it and knead it. We'll do this for 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll keep checking the fabric to see how it comes together. Many people are afraid to wash wool. They're afraid they'll make it into felt. Felt requires 3 things: your wool, your hot water, and lots of agitation. Fulling is just the first step towards felting, but we're not going to agitate it enough to make felt. What we want the fibers to do are to fluff up, full, fill in the spaces. This will soften the fibers. Every once in a while, lift the fabric and see if you can tell if it's coming together. You can always full the fabric more if you haven't fulled it quite enough, but you can't unfull it very much if you've gone too far. When you think you've done enough fulling, you can lift the fabric out and squeeze it gently, but don't wring it. And then use some rinse water to rinse your fabric similarly. Rinse it until the water runs clear. Now I've finished rinsing. I'm going to just roll this up and blot out as much moisture as I can. One other alternative would be to put this on the spin cycle only on the washing machine. Now lay your piece out flat to block it and to let it dry. Now in the future, if you're ever going to wash your shawl again, you don't want to do the agitation. Just wash like you would a wool sweater. Some people like to nap their fabric when it's at this stage while it's still wet. To do the napping, you need a stiff wire brush, such as a wool card, or cat brush or dog brush. You'll need to create some tension on your fabric and just lift the fibers up as you go. You have to go over the whole area pretty firmly and evenly. Here's a piece that I have napped. You can see how nice and warm and fuzzy that makes it, and see the difference between what's been napped and what hasn't been napped. Now that you've finished your first piece and have some experience under your belt, you may wish to try some new fibers, textures, weave structures, and projects. One of my favorite fiber combinations is the cotton chenille and brushed mohair together. The cotton chenille by itself kind of wiggles and squirms when you wash it, but by putting that brushed mohair with it, it holds it all in place, creating a fabric that's nice and warm and luscious. Or add rayon to the brushed mohair. That adds a little sparkle and dresses up your piece. This little collar was made with yarns like that. Here's some heavyweight cotton. These two pieces were both made on our new little travel dry loom. You could use ribbons. Ribbons look very nice, particularly in areas of lace, like in that Leno lace, where you hold that together, you can put a strand of ribbon in there. You might want to try some new projects. With a small triangle, for example, you can just fold it together like this and make a pillowcase. This piece shows a variety of different weave structures, including a log cabin, some double weave, Zumag for texture, and other color and weave effects. To calculate the yardage needed, first take your loom and set it up to the size you'd like to weave. Then measure across the top and count the number of nails along that edge. For example, let's say we're doing the 7-foot size. That's 7 feet across the top times the number of nails for the 7-foot loom is 158. The 7 foot is the same as 2 1/3 yards times your 158 equals 369 yards, and that's the amount you'll need for weaving. Then decide how long you want your fringes. Each fringe is folded in half, so it's twice the length you want. Say if you want a 9-inch fringe, double that, that's 18 inches or 1/2 yard. Times the number of nails along the bottom 2 edges of the board. The nails along one side of the board is the same as the nails across the top. So we've got 158 plus 158 times 1/2, which will, 58 times 2 equals 158. And this is the number of yards for the fringe. Add the 369 and your 158 together. You'll have 527. Now, if you're going to put a decorative edge across the top, you'll need 4 times the length of the top board, which is a little under 10 yards. Let's round it up to 10. And then if you're making several color changes, you may need some extra for a little yarn waste there. So I would round this figure up to 550 yards for your average 7-foot size shawl. Okay. Now, for more precise planning, when you're doing your color design, remember we're only planning 1/2 of the shawl because everything else is mirror image. The yarns, when they come down on one side and go across the loom and up on the other side, for every nail's worth, every time it does that, that's 7 feet. The length of the board across the top is 7 feet. No matter where in the loom that you're weaving, that whole distance is 7 feet. So while we're planning, we want to plan down, across, up, back, down, across, and up again. One complete revolution for each nail that we're planning. So that's 7 feet over, 7 feet back, that's 14 feet for the weaving. Plus, we'll be passing 2 nails on the left side and 2 nails on the right side where we're going to add our fringe. If we're doing a ½ yard fringe at each one of these nails, that's a ½ yard plus a ½ yard. That's a full yard worth of fringe on this side, another full yard of fringe on this side. 6 feet. It's 3 feet plus 3 feet is 6 feet of fringe. This is for the weaving. This is for the fringe, or 20 feet altogether. Divide that by 3 for your yards. We've got 6 2/3 yards of yarn for every nail that we're going to plan in our design. This figure now is useful when determining how many nails worth of each color you have. Just divide this figure into the total number of yardage per ball of yarn, and that will tell you how many nails worth of that color you have available to you for your planning. Let your imagination go. What about pinwheels, trapezoids, parallelograms, or stars? This petal poncho was made with 8 triangles on the smallest setting of the Spriggs adjustable triangle frame loom. Have fun as you explore the magic of triangle frame loom weaving.